The Starlight Wanderer drifted through the empty void of space, its sleek blue hull glinting in the light of a distant star inside the main bridge. Captain Elra gazed out at the star map projected before her. Her large silver eyes blinked slowly as she considered their next destination. Captain, all systems are running at optimal levels. First Officer Marin reported, his thin fingers dancing across the control panel. Like Altorians, both he and Elra stood just over 5 feet tall, with slender limbs and delicate features adapted to their home world's gentle gravity and peaceful evolutionary path. Nodded, her translucent skin showing the faint blue pulse of her circulatory system. Good, we should reach the next survey point within 12 hours. The tall science vessel had been mapping this sector for nearly 3 months. Their mission was simple: document new star systems, catalog habitable planets, and avoid conflict. The Terran Confederation had evolved without major predators on their home world, developing advanced technology through cooperation rather than competition. Their ships were built for scientific discovery, not combat. Captain called Communications Officer Trell from his station. I'm detecting an unusual energy signature at coordinates 380, 7,642. Eli turned, curiosity piqued. Put it on the main display. The holographic projection shifted, showing a pulsing red dot against the star map. It doesn't match any known Terran or allied ship, it continued, his voice growing concerned. The energy pattern is aggressive. Before Elra could respond, the ship's sensors blared an urgent alarm. 3 dark shapes appeared on the scanner, approaching rapidly from behind a nearby asteroid field. Unknown vessels on intercept course, called the sensor operator, her voice rising in pitch. They're powering up weapon systems. Elira felt her dual hearts quicken. Combat was rare in this part of the galaxy. The Terran Confederation had treaties with most space-faring species. Activate defensive shields, she ordered. Prepare engines for emergency jump. The bridge crew scrambled to comply, but fear slowed their movements. Talarians weren't built for crisis situations. Their bodies produced overwhelming stress hormones at the first sign of danger, an evolutionary response meant to encourage flight rather than fight. The main view screen switched to show their pursuers, 3 black ships with jagged predatory designs closed in rapidly. Their hulls bore no insignia, no identifying markers. Pirates, whispered Marin, his skin paling to a sickly white. The first impact rocked the Starlight Wanderer, sending crew members tumbling from their stations. The lights flickered, then stabilized as backup systems engaged. Shields at 60%, called the defensive systems operator. They're using focused iron cannons. They're trying to disable us, not destroy us. A cold dread settled in Elira's stomach. Ships disabled by pirates were rarely found again. Their crews disappeared without a trace. Jump. Drive status, she demanded. T-engine officer shook his head. The gravitational disturbance from the nearby star is too strong. We need to move at least half a parsec before we can safely jump. Another blast rocked the ship. This time, several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Shields at 30%. Hull breach on deck 4. Elra gripped the arms of her command chair. Emergency protocols. Alert all personnel to prepare for possible boarding. Security teams to vital areas. She knew their Dozen security officers, armed with simple stun weapons, would be little match for pirates, but she had to try. The communications panel lit up with an incoming transmission. Trell hesitated. Before accepting it, a harsh face filled the screen, reptilian with vertical pupils and scales in mottled gray and green. Sharp teeth showed as the creature smiled. Talarian vessel. The being hissed, its translator converting the sounds to understandable language. I am Captain Drex of the Vex Acquisition Fleet. Your ship has been selected for salvage and your crew for processing. Power down your systems immediately. Elira stood, forcing steadiness into her voice. This is a scientific vessel of the Talaran Confederation. We have no valuable cargo. Leave us in peace and there will be no consequences for this aggression. The Vex captain laughed. Sound like grinding stones. Consequences. From Tarians, your species is known throughout the galaxy for its weakness. You evolved without predators. We evolved as predators. The natural order is about to assert itself. The transmission cut. Seconds later, another blast hit the ship, more powerful than before. Direct hit to our main engines. Called the sensor operator. We've lost propulsion. Red emergency lights bathed the bridge as the main power fluctuated. They're launching boarding craft, reported Marin, his voice barely a whisper. Elira made her decision. Trell sent an emergency distress call to Talarian Command. Include our coordinates and situation report. Trell turned to his console, fingers shaking, as he prepared the transmission. Long-range communications are damaged, Captain. I can send a general distress call, but I can't target it specifically to our home world. Send it anyway, Elira ordered, to anyone who can hear it. As Trell worked, Elra activated the shipwide communication system. All personnel, this is Captain Elra. We are under attack by Vex pirates. All non-essential crew proceed to escape pods. All others prepare for potential boarding. This is not a drill. She turned to Marin. Begin data purge protocols. Destroy all research and star charts. Nothing valuable can fall into their hands. On the view screen, they watched as 3 smaller craft detached from the Vex ships, heading directly for their hull. Distress signal ready, announced, but the targeting system is malfunctioning. I can't control which direction it will go. Send it anyway. Elra repeated. Any help is better than none. Trell's fingers entered the final sequence. In his haste and fear, he transposed 2 critical numbers in the galactic positioning system. Instead of broadcasting toward nearby Allied space, the signal shot off in nearly the opposite direction, toward a sector marked as a void in their navigational database. Message sent, he reported. Unaware of his mistake, the distress call raced through space at faster than light speeds, carrying a simple message. Talarian science vessel Starlight. Wanderer under attack by Vex forces at coordinates 872,265. Boarding in progress. Any assistance appreciated. Please hurry. The signal passed through empty systems, beyond the normal patrol routes of Allied species. It continued into a region most spacefaring races deliberately avoided, a zone containing a yellow star with a third planet, classified in the Galactic Registry as Extreme Death World. On the Starlight Wanderer, the first explosion signaled the Vex cutting through the outer hull. Security alerts blared from every deck. "They're in, Marin," whispered. Elira stood tall, though fear made her legs weak. "Lock down the bridge, arm yourselves with whatever we have, and pray that someone hears our call." Little did she know that their signal was already being received by a species unlike any the Terrians had ever encountered, a species that evolved on a world of predators, disasters, and constant competition, a species whose response would forever change the galaxy's understanding of the word dangerous. The first Vex boarding party reached the science deck, their heavy footsteps echoing through the corridors. Behind sealed doors, Terran crew members huddled in fear, waiting for their fate. And far away, on a planet the Terrans considered uninhabitable, the first human ships prepared to respond, Admiral James Jackson stood with his hands clasped behind his back, staring at the vast emptiness of space. Through the reinforced viewport of the UES Defiance, at 6 feet tall with broad shoulders and weathered skin, he cut an imposing figure, even in the standard Navy uniform. 30 years of military service had left him with gray at his temples and a reputation for making the right calls in tough situations. Admiral called Lieutenant Wells from the communication station. "We're picking up a distress signal." Jackson turned, one eyebrow raised. Patrol Sector 7 was usually quiet. The edge of human space rarely saw much activity. "Source unknown, sir," Wells replied, adjusting his headset. "It's not a human frequency, and it doesn't match any Alliance signatures in our database." "Put it through," Jackson ordered. Bridge speakers crackled to life. The message wasn't in any human language, but the ship's advanced translation system quickly processed the alien word. "Terran science vessel Starlight. Wanderer under attack by Vex forces at coordinates 87 to 2265. Boarding in progress. Any assistance appreciated. Please hurry." The bridge fell silent. First contact with a new alien species wasn't unheard of, but it wasn't an everyday occurrence either. Terran, Jackson asked. "Vex, do we have any information on either species?" Commander Rodriguez, the ship's executive officer, quickly pulled up data on her tablet. "Very little, sir. Our xenobiology database has limited entries. Terrians are listed as a peaceful space-faring race from a low-gravity world. The Vex are flagged as a hostile species known for piracy and salvage operations." Jackson nodded slowly. "And the coordinates about 3 hours away at maximum FTL, sir," reported the navigation officer. "Outside our normal patrol route, but well within our operational range." Jackson didn't hesitate. In the centuries since humans had reached the stars, they had built a reputation for themselves, sometimes as reckless, often as unpredictable, but always as a species that answered calls for help. "Set course for those coordinates, maximum speed," he ordered, "and alert the rest of the battle group. We're responding to this distress call." "Sir," Rodriguez said quietly, stepping closer to the Admiral. "Protocol suggests we should consult with Fleet Command before engaging with unknown alien species." Jackson gave her a level look. "Someone out there is in trouble, Commander. By the time we get approval from Command, it'll be too late." He turned to address the bridge crew. "This is what we do. This is why we're out here." Around the Defiance, 4 warships adjusted their course. Cruisers Intrepid and Valiant, and the lighter frigates Swift and Resolute. Together they formed battle Group Sentinel, one of humanity's rapid response units patrolling the borders of human space. Jackson pressed the ship-wide communication button. All hands, this is the Admiral. We've received a distress call from an unknown alien vessel under attack by hostile forces. We are changing course to respond. This will be a combat situation involving first contact with at least one new species. All departments prepare accordingly. That is all throughout the massive warship. Over 800 crew members sprang into action. In the armory, Marine squads checked their gear and loaded weapons. In medical, doctors prepared for possible alien casualties. In engineering, technicians ran diagnostics on shields and weapon systems. Lieutenant Maria Rivera stood in the center of the Marine staging area, watching her squad prepare. At 57, with short dark hair and intense eyes, she commanded respect from the 20 soldiers under her command. Listen up, she called, and the busy room fell silent. We're responding to an alien distress call. We don't know what these Talarians look like or what condition they'll be in. We also don't know much about the hostiles, these Vex pirates, except that they're boarding the Tauran ship. She paced in front of her squad, making eye contact with each Marine. That means we need to be ready for anything. Full combat exoskeletons, standard loadouts, and remember your first contact training. We might be rescuing people who have never seen a human before. Sergeant Cooper raised his hand. What about environmental concerns, Lieutenant? Different atmosphere, gravity, that kind of thing. Good question. Suit up with full environmental seals, Rivera replied. We'll deploy with helmets on. The ship AI has the limited xenobiology data we have on the Terrians. Low gravity home world, atmosphere similar to Earth but higher oxygen content. Plan for potential injured civilians who may not tolerate our atmosphere. The Marines nodded, resuming their preparations with practiced efficiency. Unlike most spacefaring species, humans had evolved on a high-gravity world filled with predators and environmental hazards. Their bodies were built for endurance and strength, adaptations that made them surprisingly tough by galactic standards. Back on the bridge, Jackson studied the tactical display. Any update on those coordinates? Will arrive in 2 hours and 47 minutes. At current speed, sir, replied the navigation officer. And what do we know about that region of space? Jackson asked. Rodriguez consulted her tablet. Again, it's outside any claimed territory, sir. No major settlements or stations nearby. The closest outpost is a mining operation about a day's travel from the distress signal location. Jackson nodded. So whatever's happening out there, they're on their own unless we show up, sir. Communications Officer Wells interrupted. I've been analyzing the distress signal based on transmission patterns. I believe it wasn't intentionally directed toward us. It appears to be a broadcast that happened to reach our sensors, meaning they don't even know we're coming, Jackson said quietly. No, sir, and based on the timestamp, the message is already about an hour old. The Admiral's expression hardened. Push the engines harder. I want us there in 2 hours. The engineers won't like that, sir. Rodriguez cautioned. They'll like it less if we arrive too late to help, Jackson replied. As the human battle group accelerated to dangerous speeds, the ship's AI began compiling all available information on both Taurians And Vex, the results were limited. Humans had explored only a small portion of the galaxy, but enough to develop preliminary combat and rescue strategies. In the medical bay, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Walker reviewed the Talarian biological data. Bipedal, oxygen-breathing, carbon-based, she muttered to her medical team. Similar enough that our emergency treatments should work, but we'll need to adjust medication dosages for their higher metabolism and lower body mass. Throughout the ship, preparations continued with methodical precision. The humans had no treaty obligations to the Tarians, no political reasons to intervene. They were responding for the simplest of reasons. Someone had asked for help as the Defiance pushed its massive engines beyond recommended limits. Admiral Jackson watched the countdown timer on the main display. 2 hours until they reached the coordinates. 2 hours that might make all the difference for the aliens who had accidentally sent their distress call to the species. Most galactic civilizations avoided the Deathworlders from the harsh planet Earth. Let's hope we're not too late, he said to no one in particular, his eyes fixed on the timer as it counted down the minutes until first contact on the Starlight. Wanderer, Captain Elra and her bridge crew huddled behind makeshift barriers. They had sealed the bridge doors, but the heavy pounding from outside told them it wouldn't hold much longer. How many crew members made it to them escape pods? Elira asked, her voice barely steady. First Officer Marin checked his tablet. 37 confirmed launches. That's about half our people. Elira nodded, taking small comfort, knowing some of her crew might survive. The remaining members were either trapped in sections overrun by the Vex, or had chosen to stay and fight. Hopeless gesture for the peace-loving Tarians. Another powerful blow rocked the reinforced doors. Metal groaned under the strain. They'll be through in minutes, Trell whispered, clutching a simple stun pistol that looked woefully inadequate. Has anyone responded to our distress call? Elra asked, though she knew the answer. Their signal had been sent nearly 2 hours ago. Trell shook his head. No response, but our communication systems are heavily damaged. We might not be able to receive incoming messages. The pounding stopped suddenly. In the silence that followed, the Tarians exchanged nervous glances. What are they? Marin began, but was cut off by a new sound, a high-pitched whine of energy building up. They're using a plasma cutter, the engineering officer shouted. Everyone get back. The Tarians scrambled away from the door just as a bright blue line began to appear along its edge. The Vex were cutting their way in. It's been an honor serving with all of you, Yira said, standing tall despite her fear. If these were to be her final moments, she would face them with dignity. 2 light years away, the human battle group dropped out of FTL in a flash of distorted space. Sensors full sweep, Admiral Jackson ordered. The moment the Defiance stabilized, find me that Terran ship. The sensor officer worked quickly. Contact 3 unknown ships surrounding a damaged vessel at coordinates 45 by 223. On screen, Jackson commanded. The main display lit up with the scene. Sleek blue ship, clearly damaged, surrounded by 3 black jagged vessels. Small craft moved between them. Boarding shuttles, life signs, Jackson asked. Numerous readings from all ships, sir. At least 2 distinct species based on biosignatures. Jackson didn't wait time. Tactical target, the hostile Vessels, engines, and weapon systems. Communications broadcast on all frequencies, standard first contact. Package followed by a demand for the attackers to stand down. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Within seconds, the Defiance's message broadcast across space, a series of mathematical sequences establishing basic communication followed by a simple message translated into over 50 known alien languages. Attention unknown vessels. This is Admiral Jackson of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We are responding to a distress call from the ship you are currently attacking. Cease hostilities immediately and withdraw your boarding parties. You have 30 seconds to comply. On the O bridge of the lead Vex ship, Captain Dree stared at his communication screen in confusion. Where did these ships come from? He snarled at his crew. Identify them. His tactical officer worked frantically. Unknown configuration, Captain. They don't match any known species in our database, but their weapon systems. The officer paused, eyes widening. Their military-grade heavy armaments. Drex hissed in frustration. The Taurian science vessel had been an easy target. These new arrivals were clearly something else entirely. Still, he had his reputation to consider. Their bluffing, he decided. No one intervenes. Fratarians, prepare to fire on the lead ship. Show them who they're dealing with. Back on the Defiance, the 30-second window closed. No response. Sir, reported the communications officer. Wait, they're charging weapons. Jackson nodded grimly. They've made their choice. All ships execute battle Plan Delta. Cruisers target the lead vessel. Frigates take the flankers. Minimal force. Disable. Don't destroy. The human battle group split apart with practiced precision, moving faster than the Vex ships could track. Before Drex could give the order to fire, the Defiance and Intrepid launched a synchronized barrage that struck his ship's main weapon emplacements with surgical accuracy. The Vex vessel rocked violently. Alarms blared across its bridge. Weapons offline, shouted Drex's tactical officer. Shield generators damaged. How did they target so precisely? Before Drex could respond, more impacts shook his ship. The human vessels moved with unexpected agility, their targeting systems finding vulnerabilities the Vex had thought well protected. On the flanking Vex ships, the situation was no better. The human frigates, swift and resolute, danced around them, their smaller size belying their deadly precision. Within minutes, both supporting pirate vessels had lost propulsion and weapons capability. Inside the Starlight Wanderer, the Vex boarding parties suddenly stopped their assault on the bridge. Their communication devices buzzed with frantic orders from their mother ships. Captain, one Vex soldier reported. Unknown warships have engaged our fleet. We're ordered to return immediately. On the bridge, Captain Elra and her crew listened as they pounding and cutting stopped through the viewport. They watched in amazement as the Vex boarding shuttles hastily detached from their hull and raced back toward their mother ships. What's happening? Marin asked, hardly daring to hope. Trell, still at his damaged communication console, let out a sound of disbelief. Someone answered our call. Look, on his screen a grainy image showed the incredible scene outside. 3 Vex ships now damaged and drifting, surrounded by 5 unknown vessels of sleek, powerful design. Who are they? Elira whispered, moving closer to the screen. I don't know. Trell admitted. Their communication protocols don't match anything in our database, but they're broadcasting on all frequencies. Let me hear it, Elra ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with a voice unlike any the Tarians had heard before, deeper with different vocal patterns. Talarian vessel, this is Admiral Jackson of the United Earth Defense Fleet. The hostile ships have been neutralized. We're responding to your distress call. Do you require medical assistance or emergency evacuation? Earth. Marin repeated, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his fear. I've never heard of it. Elra moved to the communication panel with trembling fingers. She opened a channel. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Elra of the Talaran Science ship Starlight Wanderer. We thank you for your assistance. Yes, we have injured crew members and significant damage to our life support systems. There was a brief pause before the response came. Understood, Captain. We're sending medical teams and engineers to assist. Please prepare for boarding. Our personnel will arrive in environmental suits to minimize any biological concerns. As the communication ended, Elle returned to her crew with wide eyes. They defeated 3 Vex warships in minutes, she said in awe. Who are these people outside the human vessels? Moved into a protective formation around the damaged Talaran ship. From the Defiance, 4 shuttles launched carrying medical teams, engineers, and marine escorts. Lieutenant Rivera stood in the lead shuttle, checking her team's gear. 1 final time. Her powered combat exoskeleton hummed quietly, adding 2 feet to her height and multiplying her strength tenfold. Each Marine wore similar armor, an impressive sight even to other humans. Remember, she told her squad, we're here to help. The Tarians are reported to be peaceful. They've never seen humans before, so they might be frightened by our appearance. Keep your movements slow and non-threatening. The shuttle pilot's voice came over the intercom. Approaching docking bay now. Lieutenant, scans show atmosphere is thin but breathable for humans. Multiple life signs detected, some moving, some stationary. Rivera nodded, helmet sealed. Until we assess the situation, Dr. Patel, your medical team stays behind us until we secure the entry point. As the shuttle maneuvered into the damaged docking bay of the Starlight Wanderer, humans and Tarians prepared for a historic moment. First contact between 2 species from vastly different worlds, brought together by a distress call that had found its way to the most unlikely of recipients. The human shuttle docked with a gentle thud against the Starlight Wanderer's damaged hull. Lieutenant Rivera's squad formed up at the airlock, weapons ready but pointed down. Medical team waited behind them, equipment cases in hand. Scans show multiple life signs ahead. Sergeant Cooper reported, checking his helmet display. Some of them don't match Talaran profiles from our database. Rivera nodded. V stragglers. They might be trapped or deliberately staying behind. She switched to the squad channel. Remember non-lethal tactics if possible. We want prisoners who can answer questions. The airlock cycled open, revealing a dimly lit corridor. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the damaged interior of the alien ship. The atmosphere was breathable but thin, just as their scans had indicated. Move out, Rivera ordered. Secure a path to the bridge first. The Marines advanced With practiced efficiency, they're powered. Armor making surprisingly little noise. Despite its bulk, each suit enhanced the wearer's strength, speed, and durability, adaptations humans had developed through technology rather than evolution. They encountered the first Vex just 2 corridors in 3. Reptilian aliens attempting to break into what appeared to be a storage room. Freeze, Rivera called out her suits. External speakers translating into a basic galactic trade language. Drop your weapons. The Vex spun around, their yellow eyes widening at the sight of the armored humans. For a brief moment they stood frozen in shock, clearly not recognizing the species confronting them. Then one raised his weapon, a mistake. Before the Vex could fire, Cooper launched a non-lethal stun projectile. It struck the alien in the chest, releasing an electrical charge that dropped him instantly. The other 2 Vex threw down their weapons, raising clawed hands in surrender. Secure them, Rivera ordered. 2 Marines quickly bound the pirates with restraints while a third checked the storeroom door. Inside they found 7 Terrians huddled together, their large eyes wide with fear. RIAA removed her helmet, revealing her human face. Terrians gasped in unison. We're from Earth, she explained slowly, using the translator. We received your distress call. We're here to help. One Terran stepped forward cautiously. You're not like any species we've encountered before. Rivera smiled, trying to appear non-threatening despite her armor. I imagine not. We need to get to your bridge. Can one of you guide us? The Italian nodded, still staring with a mixture of fear and wonder. Follow me. I'm Medical Officer Lyran. Our bridge is 7 decks up, but the lifts aren't working. Not a problem, Rivera replied. Lead the way. As they moved through the ship, they encountered more Vex pirates, some surrendering immediately upon seeing the armored humans, others foolishly attempting to fight. None lasted more than seconds against the Marines' superior training and equipment. They also found more Taurians, some injured, others simply hiding. The human medical team began treating the wounded, while Marines secured each section. Yaya species, Lion said as they climbed up an emergency access way. You move differently than most space-faring races with such purpose. How so? Rivera asked, easily keeping pace despite her heavy armor. Most evolved species avoid physical confrontation, Lyran explained. It's inefficient, risky. The Vex are unusual because they maintained aggressive traits despite developing technology. Rhea didn't mention that humans had developed technology precisely because of their aggressive traits, not in spite of them. There would be time for cultural exchange. Later, they reached a sealed door with visible damage around its edges. This is the bridge, Lyran said. The captain and senior crew barricaded themselves inside. When the attack began, Rivera nodded to her communication specialist. Contact them, let them know we're friendly. After a brief exchange, the damaged door slowly slid open, revealing the Terran bridge crew. They stood cautiously, staring at the armored humans with expressions of awe and trepidation. A slender Terran with captain's insignia stepped forward. I am Captain I. You are the ones who answered our distress call. Rivera removed her helmet again and saluted. Lieutenant Maria Rivera, United Earth Defense Fleet Marines. Yes. Captain, our fleet intercepted your signal and responded. Ira studied the Human with undisguised curiosity, your fleet disabled 3 Vex warships in minutes. How is this possible? The Vex are known throughout the sector as dangerous predators. Rivera chose her words carefully. Earth developed differently than most worlds. We evolved with certain advantages in combat situations. Before Elra could ask more questions, Rivera's comm unit buzzed. Lieutenant, we've secured all decks, reported Sergeant Cooper. 23 Vex captured, 5 injured and resistance, no fatalities. Medical teams are treating 42 injured. Talarians, engineering teams report life support can be stabilized, but the ship's engines are beyond field repair. Understood, Rivera responded. She turned back to Era. Captain, your ship is secure, but it can't travel under its own power. Admiral Jackson is offering to escort you to the nearest friendly port, or you can evacuate to our vessels. Captain Elra looked around at her damaged bridge, then back to the human. Lieutenant, I don't know how to thank you. Half my crew would be dead or captured if you hadn't arrived. No thanks necessary, Captain. We were just doing our job. First Officer Marin stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his caution. Your job. Does your species routinely intervene in conflicts between unknown aliens? Rivera smiled. When someone calls for help, we answer. It's what humans do. The Tarians exchanged glances, clearly finding this concept novel. I have a question, Trell said, still at his damaged communication console. Your planet Earth, it's not in any of our star charts or alliance records. Where exactly are you from? Rivera hesitated, then decided simple honesty was best. We're from what you call the restricted zone in Sector 8. The Talarian bridge crew fell silent. Era's eyes widened. But that's classified as a Deathworld zone. No advanced civilization could evolve there. The conditions are extreme, high gravity, atmospheric toxins, dangerous radiation levels, aggressive fauna. Yeah, we call it home, Rivera said with a shrug. It's not so bad once you get used to it. The Tarians stared in disbelief. Everything about their evolutionary biology had taught them that life adapted for peace and cooperation. Yet here stood representatives of a species that had not only survived but thrived in conditions considered lethal by galactic standards. Captain Elra slowly extended her hand in what she hoped was a gesture of friendship. Lieutenant Rivera, it seems the galaxy has much to learn about your species. Rivera carefully took the Talarian's slender hand in her armored gauntlet. And we have much to learn about yours, Captain. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Jackson watched as human medical and engineering teams helped evacuate critically injured Talarians to the ship's advanced medical bay. Sir, Commander Rodriguez reported, we've detained the Vex. Captain, he's requesting to speak with you. Jackson nodded. Bring him to the conference room. 10 minutes later, the Admiral stood face to face with Captain Drex. The Vex pirate, despite his restraints, maintained an air of defiance. You've made a serious mistake, human. Drex hissed. You don't understand the politics of this sector. The Vex acquisition fleet has powerful allies. Jackson regarded the alien calmly. Is that a threat, Captain Drex? A warning? The Vex replied, no one interferes with our operations, especially not for worthless Taurians. Jackson leaned forward, his voice low but intense. Let me offer you a warning in Return, humans have a saying, those who live by the sword die by the sword. Today you attacked a peaceful ship that accidentally sent its distress call to us. Next time you consider preying on the defenseless, remember what happened. Here, Drex's scales darken with anger. Who are you people? Where did you come from? Jackson straightened. We're humans from Earth, and we just changed the rules in this sector. As the Vex captain was led away, Jackson turned back to the viewport. The damaged Terran ship, now surrounded by human vessels, looked fragile against the backdrop of space. Orders, sir, Rodriguez asked. Prepare to take the Starlight Wanderer in tow. Jackson commanded. We'll escort them to the nearest Allied outpost and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we've made first contact with 2 new species and the Vex prisoners. Jackson considered this. We'll turn them over to whatever authorities the Terrians suggest, but make sure the galaxy knows who stopped them, as humans and Terrians work together to repair what they could of the damaged science vessel. Word of the encounter was already spreading through Vex communication channels, and from there to the wider galactic community. Mysterious warriors from an unknown world had intervened against one of the most feared pirate fleets in the sector. The age of human isolation was over. The Deathworlders had arrived on the galactic stage 3 weeks after the rescue of the Starlight Wanderer. The human battle group entered orbit around Tellus Prime, the home world of the Confederation. The blue-green planet below was beautiful, covered in vast oceans and lush continents with low mountain ranges and sprawling cities, built in harmony with the natural environment. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Jackson straightened his dress uniform. Quite a reception committee, he remarked, looking at the dozens of Talarian vessels that had gathered to escort them into orbit. They've been broadcasting welcome messages for the past hour, Commander Rodriguez reported. News of what happened has spread quickly through their confederation. Jackson nodded. First official diplomatic contact with a new species. Let's make it count. In the ship's main conference room, final preparations were underway for the reception. Captain Elijah and the senior staff of the Starlight Wanderer had traveled aboard the Defiance during the journey to Tellus Prime, sharing knowledge and building the foundations of friendship between their peoples. Are you nervous? Lieutenant Rivera asked as they stood by the viewport, watching the planet grow larger below them. The Talarian captain smiled. A little. My people are curious by nature, but cautious with new species. You humans are unlike anything in our experience. Rivera laughed. We get that. And Lot grew serious. The Confederation Council has been in emergency session since we sent word of your assistance. They're eager to establish formal relations with Earth, and we're just as eager, Rivera assured her, though I suspect some of your people might find us intimidating. Perhaps at first. Admit it, but you saved my crew when you had no obligation to do so. That speaks volumes about your character as a species. The shuttle journey to the surface was filled with ceremony. An honor guard of Terran defense ships escorted the human delegation through the atmosphere to the capital city of Harmonium. Below, crowds had gathered to witness the historic arrival. They've never seen anything like us before, Jackson said quietly as their shuttle approached the massive landing platform where Terran officials waited. Remember, Slow movements, friendly expressions. The human delegation consisting of Admiral Jackson, Commander Rodriguez, Lieutenant Rivera, and several specialists in various fields stepped onto Terran soil for the first time. The gravity was noticeably lighter than Earth's, making each human feel strangely buoyant despite their efforts to move normally. A distinguished Terran in ornate robes stepped forward. Welcome to Tellus Prime. I am High Counselor Vin of the Talarian Confederation. On behalf of all our people, I extend deepest gratitude and friendship. Admiral Jackson bowed slightly. High Counselor, I am Admiral James Jackson of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We are honored by your welcome and look forward to building bridges between our worlds. As the formalities continued, news of the human arrival spread through the galaxy. On countless worlds, beings of all species watched broadcasts of the unusual bipeds who had emerged from the so-called Deathworld zone and defeated a Vex pirate fleet with ease. In the Grand Council Chamber of Harmonium, the humans sat at a circular table alongside the highest officials of the Talarian Confederation. The architecture of the chamber was breathtaking, soaring crystal spires that caught the light of the planet's twin suns, creating rainbow patterns across the polished stone floor. High Counselor Von addressed the assembly. For centuries, our Confederation has explored the stars in peace. We have encountered many species, formed alliances based on mutual respect and scientific exchange, but we have also faced threats, races like the Vex, who see our peaceful nature as weakness. The counselor turned to the human delegation. 3 weeks ago, one of our vessels sent a distress call that by pure chance reached a species we had never encountered, a species from a world we had classified as too extreme for advanced civilization to develop. Murmurs rippled through the chamber as the assembled officials studied the humans with undisguised curiosity. These humans, Baron continued, responded without hesitation. They traveled at dangerous speeds to reach our ship in time. They faced a superior Vex force without fear, and they did this not for political advantage or material gain, but because it was, in their words, the right thing to do. Admiral Jackson listened calmly, aware that this moment would shape relations between their species for generations to come. Today, Vin announced, I propose a formal alliance between the Talarian Confederation and Earth, not merely a treaty of friendship, but a mutual defense pact that will change the balance of power in this sector forever. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some officials expressed concern about allying with a Deathworld species whose capabilities were still largely unknown. Others pointed out the obvious advantages of having such powerful allies. Finally, one elderly counselor rose to speak. I have studied the preliminary reports on human biology and history, he said, his voice quavering slightly. Their world has gravity nearly twice our own. Their atmosphere contains elements we consider toxic. Their planet experiences weather phenomena that would destroy our cities. He paused, looking directly at the humans. To survive such conditions, they evolved extraordinary strength, endurance, and adaptability, but more importantly, they developed something else, a drive to protect those weaker than themselves. This is rare in the galaxy and precious beyond measure. When the vote came, it was nearly unanimous. The Terran-Human alliance was Born later that evening at a celebration in the grand gardens of Harmonium, Admiral Jackson and Captain Elra stood watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of purple and gold. Your High Council moved quickly, Jackson observed. I didn't expect a formal alliance on the first day. Elra smiled. The Vex have been expanding their territory for years. Smaller confederations have fallen to their raiding fleets. We've been searching for a solution. And you think humans are that solution? I know what I saw on my ship, Elira replied. Your Marines moved through Vex boarding parties like they were training exercises. Your fleet disabled 3 warships without destroying them, showing both power and restraint. She turned to face him directly. Word is spreading, Admiral. The Vex have already withdrawn from 2 border systems. 3 other confederations have requested information about Earth. The galaxy is changing because of what your people did. For mine, Jackson nodded thoughtfully. We've been isolated for most of our history, focused on our own survival. Perhaps it's time we found our place in the wider community of worlds. I think you already have, said. News travels quickly. By now most space-faring races know about the Deathworlders who answered a distress call and defeated the Vex. More calls will come, as if on cue. Commander Rodriguez approached with a data tablet. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from 3 different systems, all distress calls requesting assistance against raiders or pirates. Jackson raised an eyebrow. It seems the word is out that Earth is open for business. Will you answer them? Elra asked. The Admiral looked out at the alien sunset, so different from Earth's, yet beautiful in its own way. For millennia, humans had fought each other for resources, territory, and ideology. Now they had found a new purpose among the stars. That's what humans do, Captain, he said with a smile. When someone calls for help, we answer. As night fell on Tell's Prime, plans were already being made in the human fleet. New patrol routes, response protocols, training programs for joint operations with Talarian ships. The alliance would need time to grow to establish proper channels and procedures, but the message was clear. Throughout the sector, the Deathworlders had arrived, and they had chosen to use their extraordinary capabilities not for conquest but for protection. In the vast darkness between the stars, pirate captains and raiders altered their courses, avoiding regions where human ships might patrol. On peaceful worlds, beings looked to the skies with new hope, and in the communication centers of a dozen worlds, the same message was prepared and sent toward Earth. We need help, please come. The humans would answer. It was what they did. The end.